Everything everyone knows or anything anyone knows, they learnt it. And personally, I don't think I'm less intelligent than any other person. And that means I can learn it too. This is a principle that I'm starting to live by, that is that is liberating and also empowering. Now, the backstory to this is before I got into middle school, which is junior secondary school back in Nigeria, I was the overall best student in my class, like in my whole set, in the whole graduating set. I was the top student. And then I get into boarding school, which now it's a much bigger school with students from all over Nigeria. So basically, the smartest of the smart. In order for me to get into secondary school, junior secondary school, most major schools or schools with high standards would make you write an exam called common entrance examination. So I wrote the common entrance examination and I passed. And from what I remember, I think the passing mark was 100, and I think my mom, I can't remember the exact, I'm not sure of this, but I think I got 101. Basically, just 1 point above, and then I basically got into the school. And first semester or first term results came out, and from being the overall best student in primary school, I became like my first position when the results for the first semester came out, I think was 17th. The second semester I dropped to 21st, right? And from there I basically just like accepted the fact that, oh, I guess my time of shine was over. And then there were other students like me, they were constantly getting really high grades. Like when it came to the speech and prize giving days, like award ceremonies, the students were constantly getting all the accolades and the awards. And there I was just sitting somewhere in the crowd. And over time I started like to cement a new mindset of, oh, these guys are like the smarted ones, like they're just the smart ones, they just have it figured out. Like they just have maybe a different brain than I do. But what I didn't understand was just the difference between me and them was what they did. They studied. I didn't. In primary school, in secondary school, I didn't. And this strategy worked for me when I was in primary school, because in primary school, if you paid attention in class and then you did your homework, and if you're fortunate enough and your parents made you take extra classes, you'll be fine. You'll easily pass those exams. But the same strategy that worked for me in primary school, they could no longer work for me in secondary school. But I had no one to tell me that, because I was in boarding school, right? Even though they were like infrastructure in place or systems in place like morning prep and night prep, most of the time I would just go to night prep and play throughout, play before night prep, and night prep was about maybe an hour to 2 hours. I would sleep through it. And during those night prep, I remember sometimes I would see there was this classmate of mine. There was this classmate of mine that would study, and then I remember I would be part of those students that would make him feel like, oh, you're doing too much, all of those things. And this guy, chemistry results would come out and he got his A's. And then we get into senior secondary school, where now everyone had been separated into, I would say, majors. So we had people who were pure sciences, and then my group, like science and engineering, basically engineering, people that were up like aiming to get into school of engineering for college. And then guys in arts, and then the last was like arts, and then there was also commercial classes, so people going for accounting, finance, all of those classes. But mine was in science and engineering, right, or science and technology sort of. So we had to take classes, I mean, physics, chemistry, maths, further maths, all of the tough calculation courses. That was all we did. And everything I did throughout my time in senior secondary school was just to get by, right? And again, like I said, there were these students that were constantly getting high grades, and to an extent, I just accepted that they have something that I didn't, like a mindset of, oh, these guys are just different. They were born different, right? But by the time, so at the end of secondary school, at the end of high school, you have to take an exam called West African Examination, which is West African Examination Council. The short form, most people just call it WAEC. And you basically register for 9 subjects, and when my results came out, they were pretty good. I had no C's, it was all A's and B's, right? And this was for, I mean, coming from somebody that had always believed I was just an average student. Now, when I got into university, everything changed. I met somebody that then started explaining to me, oh, you would study, like, this is, I mean, so I attended this event, and during the event they were giving awards. They were giving just awards to students that got like the very high CGPA, first class honors in their second year. And they called this particular guy that I knew growing up in my childhood, that was very, I mean, I knew him as someone that was very playful. And then he called this guy up. I was like, what, like, how did you make it up there? So I went to meet him, basically like just cool. At first I was like, what, you're first class, like just tell me about it. And then he started explaining his system for me, to me. And this was my first, maybe like my first semester in the university. And he explained the system of reading to me, and then I started taking it, just making sure I read like consistently and read every day, or just put a system in place. The difference between me the difference between me in secondary school and me in the university was just I started studying. My first semester in my first year, my freshman year, 100 level came out. I had, out of, I think I took 10 classes, I had 9 A's and just 1 B. So out of a 5.0 GPA, I had 4.91. Now, this was crazy because the mindset I had was, oh, I wasn't part of the smart students. Like, no. I already give up hope on being a very smart student. 4.91. And then subsequent results would come out semester after semester. 10 semesters later, I graduated top of my class with the first class in mechanical engineering. Now, when I was in secondary school, I avoided physics classes, I avoided chemistry classes, I struggled in math classes, I struggled in further math classes. The only class I really excelled was technical drawing. But you see, those major classes, the mindset I had was, oh, my brain is not built for this. But that was absolutely wrong, because the only thing I had to do was just study. Like, that was the only thing I had to do, was just study. But I had no one, like I said, I had no one to talk me through it. I had no one to tell me, oh, this is how you study. Like, this is the difference. And during my time in LASU, during my time in Lagos State University, where I studied mechanical engineering, I would have people say things like so the same experience I had, I would look at these students that were getting high grades and all the awards, and look at them and call them. I feel like, oh, they are just like the FEWA. Those are like names we had for them, FEWA, or I can't remember the other ones. But in LASU, like, if you had like really high grades, if you were on first class or high second class, right, people would start calling you scholar, right? And I think this started creating sort of separation between the same separation I experienced when I was in secondary school. When I was in secondary school, I used to like see those people as, oh, they were just all just untouchable. No matter what they did, they would always get high grades. But again, the difference is just effort we put in. And I think what limited me in secondary school was just that mindset of, oh, like, these people they were just born different. They just had it. Growing up. Like, they just had like a different brain. They just had like a bigger brain, maybe a mega mind. And I wrote myself off of like seeing myself as someone that wasn't smart enough as them. But again, the difference is like the mindset I have right now is everything anyone knows. They learned it. They didn't come with that knowledge from birth. They were not born like that. And I don't think I'm less smart. I don't think I'm less intelligent. That means I can learn it too. I remember I used to tell people when I was in LASU, like, just like, I'm not different from you. Like, the only difference between me and you is just the effort I put into studying. And then the fact that an average student, like a general student, when they encounter, maybe while studying, they encounter a problem, they would just back off, right? They would stop studying it. For me, because of the drive or the desire to want to maintain that high grade, I would sit with it for hours, right? But the mindset, again, it relates to literally anything. So now I'm not like, yes, everyone has like innate ability, everyone has some innate strength, something that sets them apart. Like a fish would swim better in the sea, and a cheetah would run faster on land, right? But once you already find yourself in your domain, just understanding that everything anyone knows, anything anyone knows, no matter how phenomenal it looks, they learned it. The difference between you and them is the hours of practice, the hours invested, right? And that is liberating to an extent. It doesn't, like, it basically takes you away from that fixed mindset of, oh, I wasn't born like this. I wasn't born with this. This guy is just built different. Like Yoruba, like Nigerian parents usually have a saying like, oh, so if your neighbor's child, if they're like, maybe their neighbor's child was getting really high grades or finished the term or the semester as the top of the class, they would ask their child, does this child have two heads? Like, does this have two heads? Do they have 10? Do they have two heads? Do they have 4 brains? No. They basically have the same features you do. That means whatever it is they did that gave them that high grade, you have the same innate capacity in you. And I think that is just like the message I'm trying to like pass, right? Anything anyone learns, anything anyone knows, they learned it, and you are not less intelligent. And what that means is you can learn it too. It just takes effort, it just takes time and practice, right? And so whether it's school, especially with schoolwork, because I know most of us go through school and then we feel like, oh, there are some scholars and then there's the rest. No, it's just students, with students investing different levels of effort. So I think like that saying of, oh, this guy is a scholar, like I don't think he basically just this guy, oh, like sometimes I would be like, oh, someone will come to me for an explanation and I'll start explaining and be like, oh, this thing is really simple actually, it just takes some time. And then the reaction I would get from them was, oh, well, you're a scholar now, basically saying, oh, because you're a scholar, what are you trying to say? My brain is special, my brain is different from yours? Or are you trying to say my learning? I mean, yes, everyone has like learning different learning forms, but the point is, whatever it is I know that you think makes me a scholar, whatever it is I have in me, I have in my brain, the capacity, you have it too. And you can learn it. And it applies to every other aspect of life, right? Business, sales, anything. Anything anyone knows in any sphere of life, in leadership, in emotional management, in public speaking, right? They learned it. Yes, there are few exceptions of people that have like really insane advantages, right? And I think it still boils down to you finding your own vantage point, your own genius domain, right? Your area of strength, and then building in that phase. But regardless of that, like if you ever have the feeling of, oh, this person has it and I don't, right? They learned it. They were not born with it. Yes, they are again, like I said, they are natural proclivities. Everyone has their own internal advantages. Find yours. But the mindset, or like eliminates that fixed mindset of is either you have it or you don't. No, certain things can be learned. Most things can be learned. That's it. How do I end this video? I think this was just a rant of making you understand that you can actually learn anything you put your mind to. But the only issue is you don't have a lot of time. You don't have too much time. But for people in school, right, whatever your course of study, right, whatever your course of study, you're not different from the smartest person in your class. If you're the smartest person in your class, kudos to you. Keep going. But if you ever feel like, oh, the smartest person in my class has a higher leverage compared to me, they don't, right? My progress, I went from just being an average student in secondary school, in high school, to graduating top of my class in mechanical engineering. Like mechanical engineering is one of the toughest courses you can study in a Nigerian university, for that matter, right? Top of my class in mechanical engineering. I'm currently getting my master's in mechanical engineering again, and I have a perfect CGPA, 4.0 out of 4.0. And everything I know, I learned it. I basically like just it's not like I sit in class and I figure out everything immediately. No, I sit in class and then I'll go review notes, and when it's time for exam, just like every other student, I would study. It's just again what separates us is the amount of effort we put in, like the desire to go the extra mile to understand concepts, to really understand concepts, and when it's needed, memorize facts. But most of it, at least for engineering, just understanding concepts, right? But again, I think this is what's printing somewhere in your room. If you ever feel like, oh, this I'm different, or I don't have the capacity, like I don't have the capacity compared to my classmates. These guys are just built different. They know more than I do, or they can learn. They have some superpower. They don't. Like they actually don't. We all have this insane capacity to learn. Insane capacity to learn, and with practice we get better and better and better and better and better. Right? I think again, I feel like even this video was like 20 minutes long, the core concept I want you to just understand, I can keep repeating over and over, like I'm finding examples to buttress it. It's just that this, like everything the smartest person in your class knows, everything the smartest person in your workplace knows, everything the smartest person in the world knows. They learned it. And I am not less intelligent, you are not less intelligent, and that means you can learn it too. I can learn it too, and we can learn it too. Like once again, another way to put it, I mean, just to personalize it for myself. Everything everyone knows, or anything anyone knows, they learned it. They were not born with it. They sat down and they paid their dues and they learned it. And because I am not less intelligent, and because you are not less intelligent, you can learn it too. Like that is one of the most liberating and empowering principles that I think we can live by. And I picked up this saying from listening to Vusi Thembekwayo, the South African entrepreneur and speaker. Like it's one of the most profound sayings I've come across. Everything anyone learns, I know I've said this over and over again, just I'm gonna end end this video here now. Just again, final one. Everything anyone knows, they learned it, and you are not less intelligent, and that means you can learn it too, and I can learn it too, right? And we can all become as intelligent as we want to be, and there's no limit to how much you can learn. You can keep going and going and going and going, right? So that's it. Cheers to learning.